point at which they had reached.
Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu, who was on the unfamiliar side of the courtroom, we tell you of her claims that this is a case of revisit. Plus, what does it mean to get 746 million shillings? We put context to the money as well as introduce you to Victoria Debet Rotich.
NTV Weekend Edition with Mark Masai.
Glad you could join us on NTV Weekend Edition. My co-pilot as we are on air tonight is Gondoa David, and we are glad to have you on board. To the first story that should definitely get your attention. The price of fuel and in effect other essential goods and services are set to increase beginning tomorrow. This is despite Parliament's vote to delay the implementation of the 16% VAT on fuel products proposed by the National Treasury. The amendment by MPs first has to be approved by President Uhuru Kenyatta to take effect. NTV's Silas Apollo reports.
Thank you. It's in the same.
MPs had on Tuesday, through an amendment sponsored by Suna East MP Junet Mohammed, voted to extend the implementation of the proposal to impose a 16% fuel levy by another 2 years in a movement to shield Kenyans from the heavy tax burden bearing down on them.
Parliament has been accused many times of not being sensitive to the needs of the people. And this is one time that we must raise to the occasion and make sure that we side with the people this time.
But the amendments by the MPs first have to be approved by President Uhuru Kenyatta before they are effected. But as it now appears, Kenyans will still have to bear the weight of the punitive tax measures, including the implementation of the 16% levy on petroleum products starting tomorrow. The directive from Treasury to effect the new taxes will drive up the prices of essential goods and services and the cost of living. Starting tomorrow, and if the Energy Regulatory Commission effects the new levies, Nairobi motorists will pay a record 131.93 shillings per litre of petrol, or about 18.20 shillings. At that price, Treasury will be taking 57.57 shillings from each litre of petrol sold in the city. While debating in the floor of the House, the MP said the introduction of the value-added tax on petroleum products would at the touch of a button cause a rise in the cost of commodities and transport.
Even as we postpone this tax for a further 2 years, this House must decide to either do away with this VAT on petroleum products or not. Because we are not going to continue postponing it indefinitely.
The government has twice deferred the implementation of the 16% VAT in the last 2 financial years following a public outcry. The move by the MPs was also in response to a public clamour for reprieve at a time the economy was on a downswing. Players in the public transport industry had threatened an up to 30% hike in fares, with Workers' Union KOTU threatening to call for a nationwide strike over the same. Silas Apollo, NTV.
7 people are being treated at the Nakuru General Hospital with head and chest injuries after matatu they were traveling in rammed into a stationary lorry, killing 4 people on the spot. The 4 bodies are lying at the Nakuru Hospital mortuary, where family and friends are expected to identify their kin. The driver of the 2NK matatu that was traveling from Kitale to Nairobi has gone missing, and police are hunting him down.
At the male surgical ward of the Nakuru General Hospital, doctors go through the paces to take care of patients who were wheeled into the emergency room early Friday morning from the scene of yet another accident along the Nakuru-Eldoret highway. Vincent Otieno is lucky to be alive, though his body is sore from the impact of the accident.
Hapa kuna trailer hapa kuna matrailer hapo, dereva sio alisizia, but mwanzo mimi dereva nikitoka Kitale nilimuona alikuwa analala kwa basi, na alikuwa anakamchovu analala kwa one of the Nissans hapo kwa stage. Hasa wakati nilishuka chini mimi nimwangalia, nikaona tu labda huyu jamaa labda huenda kitu katokea. Wakati nilikuja nasikia alihit lori.
The medical superintendent at the hospital confirms 8 of them came in with various injuries and were being treated.
6 admitted have fractures. The other 4 have chest injuries, head injuries.
At the scene of the crash, the mangled wreckage was being cleared. Onlookers left with questions about what really happened.
Ilipofika saa 11
kitu na nusu hivi nikasikia mlio. Kushuka kwa gari nikakuta matatu imeniingia nyuma.
Rongai OCPD Jafet Kioko said the driver of the matatu KCF 244B disappeared immediately after the accident.
We are still establishing what happened exactly, and we'll give more details later.
Just this week, 12 people lost their lives in Kimende and another 14 injured when a 14-seater matatu they were traveling in collided head-on with the oncoming lorry. One other person died in a separate road accident along the Marigat Road. According to NTSA, 1,407 people have lost their lives on the road this year between the 1st of January and the 27th of August 2018. 2,241 others were seriously injured, while 3,368 others sustained slight injuries. Leila Mohammed, NTV.
Last night, we showed you the video of a bus that was being driven recklessly along a fog-clouded road, forcing oncoming vehicles to swerve off their rightful lane. The National Transport and Safety Authority has revoked the driver's license of the man who was behind the wheel, a man who has been identified as Hilary Shikoko Panyola. NTSA has further summoned Rencom company officials, the owners of Kawere Sacco, which owns the bus in question. The authority says an analysis of the KCL 414C's speed record showed instances of speed beyond the legal limit of 80 kph. It is set to undergo re-inspection. Serves him right. Bure kabisa. Police at Parkland's police station in Nairobi now say the main suspect involved in the attempted murder of former Garissa CC Idris Mukhtar used part of his jacket to commit suicide. Despite that explanation, detectives from various departments, including homicide, have begun their investigation to unravel the circumstances leading to the death of the suspect while in custody. NTV's Kevin Mutai also reports that the officers on duty when the death occurred have recorded their statements.
The inquiry into the suspicious death of the main suspect in the shooting of former Garissa County Executive Member for Finance, Idris Mukhtar, continues to deepen as police maintain their hard stance that the suspect committed suicide. Police say that David Mwai hung himself in the toilet despite tight surveillance in the police cell. The officers who are on duty have recorded their statements.
This deceased lather had used had cut one of the hardest parts of his jacket, the lower part of the jacket, the hem, and that's the one that he had used to try to commit suicide. He had tied part of the loop, and the other one had hanged it. And actually, because of the height, he had stepped on a small water bucket that actually, I understand, they were given water to drink.
Mwai was brought to Parklands police station after long hours of interrogation at the regional police headquarters in Nairobi area. The procedure of locking up the suspects include frisking to ensure no weapons get into the cells, begging the question, how did Mwai cut his jacket?
The cells were not locked, knowing that there were only 3 prisoners, and therefore they had a free time to walk to the toilet and back to the cells. So there was no need of the officer escorting them.
Homicide detectives from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations were at the police station, now being treated as a crime scene. Independent Policing Oversight Authority has also commenced its investigations.
Many officers have come to this police station to try and find out the truth of what actually could have happened. But what I'm saying is, we are cooperating with each and every agency interested in investigating this matter. And you give them full cooperation and we share all the information that we have with them. If there be anyone to blame or found culpable, then the law you take its course.
Police officers who preferred anonymity have also revealed that there is an ongoing investigation concerning threats to the lives of some city lawyers. One of the suspects, Mohammed Hussein, is still in custody at the Gigiri police station, and detectives are trying to piece together information their main suspect may have offered. The late Mwai's family is now demanding answers from the police, with Idris Mukhtar still fighting for his life in intensive care unit. Kevin Mutai, NTV.
The Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu will not face criminal charges brought by the DPP against her at the Magistrates Court until a case she has filed before the High Court challenging her prosecution is heard and determined. Chief Magistrate Lawrence Mugambi this afternoon complied with the directives from the High Court and halted the proceedings that began on Wednesday. The case will now be mentioned on the 22nd of September. Ken Mijungu with the details from the court.
The court convened right on time, and the presence of the high-profile and seasoned lawyers left no doubt as to the weight this ruling carried. Sitting a few feet from the magistrate was the Supreme Court Judge Philomena Mwilu. Occasionally, she will chat with those who surrounded her on the side preserved for the bar, an unfamiliar ground for her as she has made a career sitting at the bench. This was a defining moment, but the outcome was clear now that the order that kept her longer in court had been rectified. The problem was an error in the case number and the police number, and once her legal team got that out of the way, the proceedings at the Chief Magistrate's Court were decided.
In compliance with the said order, this Honorable Court gives the following directions: that these proceedings shall now rest at the point at which they are reached, that the status quo shall be maintained in respect of any orders the court had made so far.
Justice Mwilu had instituted parallel proceedings at the High Court on Wednesday, challenging her prosecution for corruption and abuse of office among other criminal charges, and obtained orders barring the court from proceeding with the hearings. Among other things, she argued that her appearance in the dock was part of a plan by President Uhuru Kenyatta to avenge her vote in favor of nullifying the presidential election in August of last year. High Court Judge Chacha Mwita suspended the criminal case until October 9th, when he will hear the petition.
From the onset of these proceedings, the advocates in this case had vowed that their client was not going to take plea. Well, that has been achieved. It's not the end of the criminal proceedings against the Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu at the Chief Magistrate's Court.
But the petitioner is in the High Court.
2 weeks after the hearing of the High Court case, the Chief Magistrate will mention the case before the parties to assess the progress and determine if there are further orders and directions from the High Court.
There shall be a mention before this court for purposes of appraising or updating this court on any further directions of the High Court in respect of this criminal case that is pending before this court.
Stating these points because
the Chief Magistrate's Court will, however, convene on the 4th of next month to receive the orders relating to Mwilu's co-accused Stanley Muluvi, whose lawyers were not able to extract them in time for today's ruling. The lawyers had told the court that there was no possibility of a separate case proceeding against Muluvi at the Chief Magistrate's Court, while his co-accused, Philomena Mwilu, was handling the case at the High Court level. Ken Mijungu, NTV.
A senior officer in the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions has today been charged in court with abuse of office offences. Senior Principal Administrative Officer William Ashael Osoro was charged with stealing fuel lubricants valued at 7.9 million shillings. He denied the charges and was released on a 600,000 shillings cash bail. The officer appeared before Chief Magistrate Lawrence Mugambi. The Director of Public Prosecution said he received an internal audit report raising queries on fuel consumption in the office's transport division. Still on corruption, the National Council of Churches Executive Committee has expressed concern over the statistic that a third of Kenya's national budget is lost to corruption. This means that by July 2019, Kenyans will have lost about 780 billion shillings to graft in just 12 months. Speaking in Kilifi during the closing of the 63rd General Assembly of the NCCK, General Secretary Reverend Canon Peter Karanja proposed to the government ways of fighting corruption.
This General Assembly recommends the following remedial measures. A. Draw a line between old corruption and new corruption and deal with old corruption by offering an amnesty from prosecution for those who engaged in corruption in the past, and who must restore what they stole and declare their accomplices. This is the lesson we learned from Luke 19, verses 1 to 9, where Zacchaeus declared he was prosecuted and jailed for life. C. Seize the assets and proceeds of corruption into a fund that can be used to pay off public debts.
The current war on graft has put parliamentary committees on the spot over their capacity to investigate corruption scandals and table factual reports before the floor of the House. The integrity of the members, leadership and friends of the committees play a critical role in determining whether these committees are in a position to deliver on their mandates objectively. Vincent Odor with that story.
Thank you. It's in the same.
Under the current constitution, Kenya has a bicameral parliament comprising of the Senate and the National Assembly. The two houses conduct their business through parliamentary committees.
Yangu ilikuwa si swali, lakini ni kukupa motisha.
Recently, some of the committees investigating corruption scandals in the country have been accused of taking bribes and being cozy with suspects and interviewees.
Some of them, or some of their members, are driven by private interests, personal gain, making gains out of what is supposed to be their official responsibilities, which they owe to the people of Kenya.
Legislators who form the membership of these committees have not only been accused, but also seen not to take the seriousness the committees demand of them.
Some of them do not sit through committee sittings in its entirety and contribute to the tasks that the committee is handling for the entire period. And in fact, there are very few occasions that these committees have been full. Some of them already are half-hearted into the objectivity of that kind of inquiry because of some of them political inclination, some of them because of being approached by the objects of inquiry.
The presence of friends of the committees has always raised questions on whose agenda they pursue, as some are accused of derailing objectivity of such committees. This has forced the National Assembly to change its standing orders, requiring those who want to be friends of committees to write to the relevant chairpersons at least 24 hours before the meeting. The presence of friends of the committees has always raised questions on whose agenda they pursue, as some are accused of derailing objectivity of such committees. This has forced the National Assembly to change its standing orders, requiring those who want to be friends of committees to write to the relevant chairpersons at least 24 hours before the meeting. There have been calls on the members of the committees to be individuals that add expert input to the subject matter. This is usually compromised from election to parliament and nomination of the legislators to a particular committee.
Their experience, knowledge, depth, or otherwise is not predetermined before they join a particular committee. And that is why you may find somebody in the health committee who has got no idea, no knowledge at all on matters health.
For each committee member, chairpersons earn 10,000 shillings, vice chairpersons 8,000 shillings, and members 5,000 shillings, while the number of committee meetings members can attend in a day is not limited. Vincent Odur, NTV.
3 schools have been closed and over 50 families displaced by floods in Baringo South. Ngambo Girls Secondary School, Sintan Primary School and Ilngarua Primary School in El Chamos Ward were closed, a decision that was reached after 3 pupils were rescued from drowning this morning. Sintan Primary School Deputy Head Teacher Sami Tunai says the rain started on Thursday. The Class 8 pupils expressed concern that the floods might affect their preparations for the final primary school exams. It's 20 minutes past the hour. NTV Weekend Edition takes its first break. I'll be back with more. Stay with us.
with Mark Masai.
Welcome back. Victoria Jebet Rotich, her 2 daughters and her son were named by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission as the biggest beneficiaries of more than 700 million shillings in fraudulent payments supposedly made to maize traders by the National Cereals and Produce Board. These revelations were made by EACC when they appeared before the Senate committee looking into the maize crisis. But just who is Victoria Jebet? Tonight, NTV's Lois Wangoi puts a face to the name.
An eerie silence ushers you into the home of Victoria Jebet Rotich in Uasin Gishu County. Victoria Jebet and her 2 daughters, Celestine Chepchirchir and Caroline Chepchumba, who live here, spent most of their day in Nairobi at the Anti-Corruption Court. Here we meet 3 workers who tell us they did hear of graft charges facing their boss, but they didn't give it much thought. But the workers offer us a quick peek into her life with a tour of her home. This was her first house, a mud-walled, threadbare structure where she started as a maize farmer and a small-scale trader. A few years later, she would move into the stone-walled house and has been living here since. But a few meters away, they show us her most recent upgrade, a palatial house sitting on a 3-acre piece of land. According to EACC detectives looking into the dubious payments to maize farmers, this development raised suspicion. Victoria Jebet, her 2 daughters, and her son, whose identity EACC officers withheld, were the sole beneficiaries of well over $500 million shillings in payment from the maize budget at a time when thousands of many other farmers were yet to receive a single cent for their crop. They were paid in record time for questionable deliveries made to the Eldoret depot.
Kwa vile sasa ya nyumbani analima karibu eka 500. Hapo tena huwa anakondesa mashamba huku nje tena. Hako na mashamba ambayo anakondesa. Alafu na ya pili tena tunajua tunamfahamu kwa vile akiwa huku sisi anasaidia na majirani na relatives marafiki ambaye anambitishia mahindi.
At the first signs of smoke from the maize scandal, Victoria Jebet was among traders who defended themselves against claims that they had been paid at the expense of genuine maize farmers. She said then that she started her trade in 1982.
Kufika mwaka jana 2017 nikakuja cereal nikaleta mahindi yangu kutoka Moiben ya shamba yangu. Alafu saa ile mimi niko kwa laini, wakulima wakakujia mimi wakaniambia, mama, kwa sababu wewe tunajua wewe sio mwaramu na uchukui kitu ya mtu, utusaidie ufungulie sisi watoto ya shule. Kweli nikawa na ile huruma yangu yenye nilikuwa naye tangu nikiwa msichana. Nikapea pesa in advance wakulima wengi sana. Nikafungua watoto ya shule, nikafungua wengine waende walime shamba, nikafungua wengine wenye walikuwa na loan, nikafungua wengine wenye walikuwa na wagonjwa wa hospitali. Sasa sikujua hiyo kusaidia hiyo wakulima hivyo nitakuja kuitwa cartel.
The EACC disputes her story of being a farmer herself. While addressing a presser in Nairobi, they noted Victoria Jebet supplied maize to various NCPB depots using fake vetting forms, and while at it, she earned close to $1 billion Kenyan shillings. Lois Wangoi, NTV, in the county of Uasin Gishu.
Last night, we exclusively revealed that 746 million shillings was allegedly paid to one family in the NCPB maize scandal. That's 746 million shillings. I know it's hard to wrap your mind around those figures, and it definitely is for me. It's quite an abstract figure. So let's break it down to get some context and understand what it can do for you and me. Now, I'm talking about this case here, and this is the multi-million tenderpreneur's case of 746 million shillings allegedly to one family. Now, if we look at this, this one family was paid 46 million shillings. Now, 90 kilogram bag of maize in Eldoret goes for 1,600 shillings. So, in effect, the 746 million shillings can buy 466,250 90-kilogram bags, and 1 acre can produce 25 bags. So this is 18,650 acres of maize worth that was allegedly legally paid to this one family. Now, of course, government statistics give us that each person eats 1 90-kilogram bag of maize in a year. So this family can feed 18,650 people in a year. Let's look at some of the other figures that can help us understand. Now, what else can it do? It can help revive some struggling companies. Now, Mumia's Sugar owes farmers 700 million shillings. So that 746 million can revive it and still have some more change. Uchumi, this is a big one. Uchumi has been having a debt of 600 million shillings pending a bailout, of course, and that amount can bail it out and still a bit of more change to save. Now, if you are into cars, this is probably going to get your attention and break it down to something you can understand. What can it buy? Range Rover Vogue 2011 cost about 6 million shillings. So with 746 million shillings, you can buy 124 of these babies right here. If you don't understand the Range Rover kind of budget, let's take it down to Toyota Vitz 2011. No pun intended to the owners of such cars. I love them. Very fuel efficient. Now, 2011 model costs about 750,000 shillings. The money can buy, let's go to that, 994 of these, and you'll still have change with which you can get a second-hand one for good use. Now, parents, now let's look at something else that it can help you do, the 746 million shillings. Parents should pay 9,374 annually for day secondary schools. This means that for the 4 years in school, a student should pay 37,496 shillings. So with 746 million shillings, you can fund 19,895 students through all 4 years of their secondary school. So with 746 million shillings, you can finance all the students in Tana River County or Turkana County through their high school and have some change for that. Now, according to Has Consult, the highest asking price for a house in the country is in Gigiri with an asking price of 109.4 million shillings. So with that money, you can buy 6 of these, and as you know, you can just have a bit more and you'll have the 7th in this particular issue. Now, that's just helping you wrap around, and I think the Vitz analogy here can help many people understand what that money could do. It could do a lot even for our economy. In a bid to find justice to maize farmers, 8 more suspects were today charged in court over the 5.6 billion shillings maize scandal. The 8 appeared before Senior Principal Magistrate Felix Kombo at the Anti-Corruption Court in Milimani. They denied the charges. Among those charged is NCPB Regional Director in Eldoret, Kibet Korir, and other officials of the cereals depot. The prosecution of the 8 follows that of Agriculture PS Richard Lesyampe, who was yesterday released on a 3 million shillings cash bail. Those arrested alongside Mr. Korir are NCPB junior officers Carolyn Kipchoge, Eric Kipketer, Talam and Virginia Wamaitha Joroge, Stephen Kiprop Mayu, Peter Chirchir and David Barangetuny Korir, and trader Paul Kipiego Marus is the other one who was arrested today. Excuse me for that. They were arrested yesterday in Eldoret, and brought to Nairobi to take plea. The IBC has collected 7.75 million shillings in fines from 31 candidates who were found guilty of flouting the Electoral Code of Conduct. Our Senate Speaker Ken Lusaka and his 2017 opponent for the Bungoma governorship position, Wycliffe Wangamati, top the list of those fined. Lusaka and Bungoma Governor Wangamati were fined 1 million shillings each for violence by their supporters. But Ken is on top because he, in another case, was again fined another 1 million shillings. Former Vihiga Governor Moses Akaranga was fined 500,000 shillings. In Boni East, MP candidate Professor Philip Kaloki was fined 500,000 shillings for disrupting his opponent. Laikipia Governor Derito Mureithi was fined 500,000 shillings for displaying posters alongside Jubilee Party colours. Those were among the 71 cases which were tried by the Electoral Code of Conduct Enforcement Committee. 37 were prosecuted and accused persons found culpable. It is estimated that one burn incident happens every 60 minutes in Kenya. Burn Society of Kenya, in collaboration with the Kenyatta National Hospital, have officially launched the inaugural National Burns Awareness Week with the theme Zuia Moto, Zuia Gharama. The theme is premised on a worrying statistic that about 50% of the burn cases requires 1 million Kenya shillings to treat. Rose Wangoi spoke to burn victims ahead of the Awareness Week.
31-year-old Dan Matakaya, a police officer, suffered severe burns in 2013 after 96% pure sulfuric acid was poured on him by his wife while he slept.
She poured something on my face. I never knew what it was. It started burning. And she ran away. I underwent several surgeries, grafting, and many surgeries.
He was left disfigured, traumatized to the extent of being suicidal. Matakaya has been able to come out of his shell and even started a foundation to assist burn victims. Kevin Kairu too is a survivor.
An individual ambushed me. In the dark, I didn't know there was someone. And he just put something on my face, which started tearing my uniforms all over.
Yusuf Otieno incurred 50% burns from his face to the stomach.
Sasa ile kumaliza kupiga kwenda kuzima stove ikalipuka, ikanichoma huku mpaka miguu. Sina kazi. Bibi alisikia nimeungua akatoroka. Kabeba mtoto kaenda. Nyumba najua sasa paliko imefungwa. Sasa mimi naomba tu kama itawezekana nifanyiwe surgery nipone, naomba usaidizi.
But the real challenge these victims say is overcoming the mental anguish.
So psychologically, socially, emotionally, you are totally affected.
Once you've been disfigured or once you've been scarred and God amekuwezesha ukakuwa alive, then you don't have to whimper and cry that maisha iko aje. No. I want them to know that they can live again and love themselves.
Most of the burn cases in the country arise from gas and electrical fires, as well as chemical accidents leading to loss of life, disability, permanent scars on victims, and loss of property worth millions of shillings.
Some slum areas where people illegally tap power line from this house and they pass it with poor quality wires, and at times even as you walk around in some places you really need to be careful.
According to the Ministry of Health, more than 180,000 burn cases were reported in 2016 alone. Out of this, 40% of burn victims are children. 50 to 60% burn cases can cost up to 1 million Kenya shillings per month in hospitalization cost.
Most of the patients cannot afford. We encourage a lot of them to plug into NHIF, and that is able to clear a bit of a bill for them.
Kenyatta National Hospital is the only public healthcare institution with a specialized burns unit in Kenya. It handles between 1,200 to 1,500 new patients every year, with between 150 to 200 succumbing to burn injuries every year. Rozongoi, NTV.
Full disclosure now, just before we get into the business with Dan. He's the one in charge of the numbers, a big number that we gave you, 746 million shillings, and breaking it down. And he's the one who chose the VITs. I do not know why he chose the VITs. It's quite a nice car.
I'll reveal the statistics and methodology one day upon a time.
Nothing against them. Well, something that we also had, probably missed you or someone else, is the visit of Prime Minister May, and of course, yes, her getting down. I'm not too sure which dance this was, but she really tried. This is behind the scenes without the bilateral talks.
So
is this
South Africa?
Odi.
That could be like 4 dances.
Odi. Yeah, I think she's going Odi.
I think I could actually beatbox and she could go to it.
She's actually doing a good job, I think. I think she can hear you. Well done, Prime Minister May. There was another one in South Africa, though, and that was another story. And because I plan to travel to see my mom in Edinburgh, UK may revoke a visa. So, well done, Prime Minister May, in the dancing. What's happening here?
So here it's quite some burger. This is the largest burger in the world, as a matter of fact. This is 64 kilograms of burger. So that's the patty. There is meat. Mark, we hoped you could have eaten all this.
No.
I think you've been eating it. That's why you can't close your jacket.
No. For full disclosure, again, it can happen. I just have papers in my hand. It can happen. Wow, look at that.
Enjoy your dinner.
Yes, some ideas. This is actually some of the components that go to this big burger. Hoping to see the final picture here. But the Kenyan version, I hope we'd have the biggest ugali, just to have a competition.
I guess if there was...
Which country do you think would win this one?
For the burger?
No, for ugali.
For ugali. I don't want to be judged. But anyway, I think if there was a kanjo there and they were destroying it, there'd likely be a guy who will run away holding the meat like this.
Ugali man, hey, and then we get into the issues of Githeri media. So let's get into business, because we don't want none of that.
We're not burger media.
I think we just are now. Business up next.
With me.
Enjoy security and happiness that comes with home ownership.
Now it's time to get down to business. My name is Dan Mwangi. Now, your contributions to the proposed National Social Housing Fund may increase from your employer's 0.5% contribution. This may rise to 1.5% contribution by the employer and 1.5% by the worker. This, according to the Housing and Urban Development Principal Secretary Charles Hinga, was arrived at after the ministry sat with the Central Organization of Trade Unions and realized the initial proposal was insufficient for the project. Parliament had shot down the proposal, which was in the 2018-2019 budget statement, plus PS Hinga says the state will still pursue the creation of the fund. He says the government also met with the Federation of Kenya Employers as well as Parliament's Housing and Finance Committees. He was speaking at the 254 Realty Expo 2018, a Nation Media Group initiative where the discussions were centered around affordable housing.
To our MPs, KOTU, who initially were opposed, are supporting it. We negotiated with KOTU and we even agreed, we raised the amount because at 0.5%, when they saw the plan that we have, it is not enough. So we agreed on a 1.5. The National Housing Development Fund contribution is not a tax, it's a contribution. You get a house. If you don't get a house, after 15 years, you can take out your money with a return, or you can convert it into pension, or you can elect to assign the benefit to a beneficiary.
Beginning January 2019, Hako Industries will no longer be manufacturing big products in Kenya. This is because the company, together with the Societe Big, have formally signed over manufacturing and distribution facilities back to the parent company. This agreement will affect distribution of stationery, lighters and shavers in East Africa, functions that will now be fully under Big. Hako Industries upscaled production facilities from a small assembly plant based in Mombasa to the current semi-automated production plant located in Kasarani, with a market presence in the entire East African region, including Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, Ethiopia and Tanzania. We talked about burgers earlier on. That was not Food Friday. This is Food Friday.
It is that time of the year again when the roaring sounds of combine harvesters fill the air in most parts of Narok County, announcing the onset of wheat harvesting. And in Moiben within Uasin Gishu County, we caught up with Thomas Korgoren, checking on the progress of his wheat. Like most farmers in the country, Korgoren is a worried man due to the ever-rising cost of production.
Cost of production ya mahindi ya 2016-2017 season ilikuwa 2,400 per 90 kilos. Lakini serikali ikaweka ile faida ya kasi ya mkulima inakuja 28. Alafu wakaonelea wapatie 3,000. That was 2016-2017. Ile ya mwaka hii ni 3,000. Kumaanisha 3,200. Kumaanisha cost of production is about 2,600 ama 2,500.
Shedrack Maimet, another maize farmer from Cheplaskei region in Uasin Gishu, is equally concerned.
Unaweza weka kamoja kama 25,000. Ni pesa mingi sana. So ukiona kama shamba itakutolea mahindi kama gunia 25, na saa hii bei imeenda karibu 1,000. Sasa utakuwa unapata 25,000 na umeweka kwa hiyo shamba shilingi 25,000. So itakuwa unafanya kazi ya mark time.
And now that Parliament voted to shelf the 16% VAT on petroleum products, the farmers can now smile because the tax would have pushed the cost of production up further, forcing them to spend 200 shillings more for every acre.
Ilikuwa afueni kwetu kwa sababu sasa tunaweza enda shamba vizuri na tunatumia pesa kidogo kwa ukulima. Lakini sasa tumesikia pia mambo ya herbicides, dawa ya kunyunyiza mashamba ndio itoe kwekwe kwa shamba, imeongezwa bei. Kwa hivyo haitakuwa imetusaidia kwa sababu ni kama kupea kwa hii mkono mwingine na kutoa kwa hii mkono mwingine.
Kwanza unaanza na kulima, unapiga aru mara mbili, unaweka chisel, unapanda, una spray ukitumia dawa, ukitumia diesel, tinga, alafu wakati ya kuvuna na kutransport yote bila diesel, kazi haiwezi endelea.
Parliament has given farmers a temporary reprieve by suspending the implementation of increase in fuel prices by at least 2 years. Farmers, however, call on the government to further subsidize the price of other farm inputs in order to cushion them against further losses.
Serikali ikikuja karibu na mkulima, haone bei ya spare ya tinga ikuje chini. Bei ya diesel ikuje chini. Bei ya fertilizer ikuje chini. Mbegu. Hiyo yote ikikuzwa, mkulima atanufaika na atafurahia kazi yake, na bila shaka serikali itakuwa na furaha pia.
For Food Friday, I am Gabriel Kudaka.
The farmer's joy may be premature as the 16% VAT on petroleum products is still set to take effect beginning midnight tonight. This is because President Uhuru Kenyatta is yet to sign into law the amendment made by Parliament to shelve implementation until 1st of September 2020. I guess 2020 may just be a vision. Let's look at financials now.
NTV Financial Report in association with the University of Nairobi.
Let's look at how the financial markets are working today and how the Mondays are faring, have been faring in the course of the week. Now we compare yesterday and today, and first and foremost look at the stock exchange, or rather the securities exchange, and we have the NSE 20 share index, which is at 3204.3, coming from 3245, a drop from yesterday's level. All share index is also down. Market capitalization, there is a total value of 2.48 trillion shillings in the market. Equity turnover has moved up to 925.3 million, and bonds have gone down from 2.54 billion to 1.44 billion worth of the same. Now taking a look at the most active stocks, so the Safaricom traded 9 million shares, equity 6.4 million, Kenol Kobil 4 million, and KCB Bank traded 2.1 million shares today. Now looking at the next counter, we have the biggest gainers, and this is Umeme Limited. It's cross-listed between Kenya and Uganda. It's at a share price of 10.40, a rise of 9.5%. Uchumi Supermarkets up 7.69% at 1 shilling and 40 cents. TPS, that's Serena, at 25 shillings is up 6.4%, and Standard Group at 30 shillings per share has risen 6.19%. That's the green. On the red side of the scale, we have Sanlam, which is down 16.67% at 20 shillings per share. Equity Bank is down 8.72% at 44.5 shillings per share. Everready at 1.25 shillings is down 7.41%. And we have CFC Stanbic at 12.5 shillings, going down 6.02%. And those are your financials, and that's business. We're all done for this week, but Mark is not. Neither is Brian. Good night.
Join the renowned University of Nairobi School of Business for market-driven and internationally accredited courses in postgraduate and undergraduate studies offered in September 2018. The programs are offered in Nairobi, Kisumu, Mombasa, and Eldoret Learning Center.
Mark Masai.
Thank you for staying with us. Before we get into the sports with Brian Otwal, Bridget Ngana is in Maralal and she has her form of sports that she's covering for this weekend, and it's the Camel Derby. Basically, Ngamia is running, and she'll tell us a bit more about that and what we can expect.
DJ World Champion.
Ashalang Mark, and this means thank you very much, Mark, in the local Ma language. The Samburus are still part of the Ma nation, and this is in the sidelines of tomorrow's D-Day, which is the Camel Derby, the only camel riding competition in this side of the Eastern Central Africa, but more specifically even in Kenya and also in the whole world. It is 28 years old this year, and it has been a successful competition, rather attracting international participants from more than 20 countries rather. And here in Samburu County, we also have participants from also other counties. It is in the Northern Corridor, and this is a tournament that has been bringing together the pastoralist community in this area. It has been for the peace building purposes. We do remember that even last year we had instances of conflict over pasture, and this tournament has been in place for the last 28 years to bring together these communities to talk more about ensuring their livelihood even after going forward, even after the conflict. They are coming together, the Pokots, the Samburus, we have the Turkanas, who are not just inhabitants of this county but also this northern region. As far as Marsabit, we have one of participants who have been taking place in this tournament for more than 10 years, and they are coming from all the way from Marsabit. So on the sidelines of this, we did speak to the governor of this county this morning, and Moses Lenol Kulal, who said that this county is welcoming each and every person to Maralal for these 2 days during this weekend to take part in the Camel Derby. It is an event that is hyped, Mark. Camels running up and down, and if you have ever been on a camel, you would try and imagine what it really means being there, competing professionally. There are prizes up for grabs for those who are taking part in the professional and amateur races. And also, Mark, we're having cyclists and runners, so it is a collage of activities that are going to take place tomorrow. Also, the Deputy President, William Ruto, has been said to be here. It will be be confirmed officially if he's going to be here tomorrow, but it has been anticipated that he's going to be one of the chief guests, as well as Najib Balala, the CS for tourism. This is also a function that markets this Northern Corridor as one of the premier tourist destinations apart from the coast and other regions of this country. We have seen people coming up to this place. In fact, getting accommodation has been really difficult for us journalists. We imagine for those people who have been booking for this event in the last years, or even being told some hotels have been booked for even 3 days going forward. So tomorrow, Mark, I will be here to follow up on this peace building initiative that has been transforming the face of the Greater Northern Corridor, bringing pastoralist communities together and telling them that there's livelihoods even beyond livestock farming. One of the key things that is emerging is that we are going to look towards the breeding of camels as an alternative source of income for these livestock communities, and also for the women empowerment. They are being told to engage in cultural activities such as the beadwork, and these are some of the highlights that are going to take place here in the Camel Derby tomorrow, Mark.
You call me shaking my head there because I've never been on a camel, but I challenge you to do a piece to camera on a camel tomorrow as you do the story, and we'll see whether the Deputy President will be there tomorrow. All right, we'll take you up on that. We'll be seeing that tomorrow. Thank you very much, Bridget Ngana. Let's now turn our attention to other stories making headlines across from around the world. Uganda protests broke out in Kampala, Uganda, after MP Bobby Wine was...
Let's have a look at the day's sports news. Welcome, my name is Brian Otwal. Junior Malkia strikers beat Mauritius in straight sets to collect their second victory at the Africa Under-20 Nations Championship to finish 5th in the games in Kasarani Indoor Arena. Kenya was seeking to bounce back from a double loss to Nigeria and Cameroon. Recorded a 3-0 set win of 25-14, 25-22 and 25-18. Rwanda will take on Egypt in the final after seeing off Cameroon 3-1 in sets of 28-26, 23-25, 25-21 and 25-20 in the semi-final.
Every other minute, every other day. And I believe if you are to reach final,
there will be a lean Kenyan representation at the Memorial Van Damme Diamond Trophy in Brussels tonight, where season-topping athletes will be rewarded. Last night, Olympic steeplechase champion Conseslus Kipruto stunned the world when he won the Diamond League in Zurich, running with one shoe. This as world 5,000 meters champion Hellen Obiri retained her title despite huge pressure from European champion Sifan Hassan of the Netherlands.
It's Obiri and Hassan. On a night that was all about winning rather than times, the women's 5,000 meters produced another classic head-to-head sprint finish at the IAAF Diamond League meeting in Zurich, with world champion Hellen Obiri eventually retaining her title despite huge pressure from European champion Sifan Hassan of the Netherlands, who then faced a drive through the night to get to Belgium for the season-ending Memorial Van Damme meeting. There's the 1,500-meter runner. Meanwhile, Conseslus Kipruto found a way to retain his Diamond League steeplechase title. Despite losing his shoe during the first lap, he moved past Morocco's Soufouane El Bakkali in the final few strides after clearing the final hurdle in second place. It's Kipruto! In other results, Timothy Cheruiyot took the men's 1,500 meters, while world and Olympic 800 meters champion Costa Semenya ran the race she felt without pacemakers to win in a time of 1 minute 55.27 seconds. The Diamond League season ends in Brussels tonight with a lean Kenyan representation in a competition with just 5 events of interest.
Some golf, the Vet Lab Sports Club course in Kabete will from Saturday host the second leg of the Safari Golf Tour. Golf Park's David Wahu, who won the first leg at the Nyali Golf and Country Club, will be seeking his second Safari Tour title, but first he will have to fend off competition from the long-hitting Dismas Indiza. Royal Nairobi's Eric Ooko, Riz Charania from Windsor, Kopan Timbe, Greg Snow and Alfred Nandwa will also be in action this weekend. The series is set to attract over 30 professionals playing for the million prize kitty. And there was drama as Migori bagged the women's football title at the inaugural County Assembly's Sports Association, that is CASA Games, at the Kasarani Stadium, with teams chasing referees after Trans Nzoia men's team attacked a referee in the quarter-final match won by Vihiga 1-0. Hell broke loose after a referee blew the final whistle as Trans Nzoia bayed for his blood and the referee had to scamper for safety. Trans Nzoia had refused to return to the field for the second half of the men's quarter-final, accusing eventual winners Vihiga for fielding ineligible players. And Confederation of African Football CAF Technical Director Raul Chipenda has clarified the uncertainty surrounding certification for the CAF licensing, that is the course held in 2016-2017 across the country. Close to 170 coaches took part in the course but have since not received their certification following CAF's decision to temporarily suspend courses with an aim of carrying out a review of the curriculum. Chipenda, who is in the country to oversee a 5-day CAF Technical Directors Workshop, noted that the CAF will soon roll out sanctioned courses as well as facilitate the issuance of the pending certificates soon after the CAF committee meeting. It is down to the quarterfinals of the FKF SportPesa Shield this weekend as Ulinzi Stars take on Western Branch League side River Plate FC before paving way for defending champions AFC Leopards against Kenya Police at the Bukungu Stadium in Kakamega. On Sunday, the Kenyatta Stadium in Machakos, Sofapaka will face off with Tusker FC in the first over double header. 2017 runners-up Kariobangi Sharks take on Gor Mahia. And Liverpool are aiming to maintain their winning start to the season and are yet to consider goal.
See what you did there. See what you did there. Ni Van Damme ama ni Van Damme?
It's Van Damme, man.
Ulikuwa na watch movies of 5 bob. Anyway, thank you for watching NTV Weekend Edition. David Agondosh, asante sana for the sign language interpretation. I'll be back at 1 o'clock just before Top Sport and also at 9 o'clock tomorrow. Have a good night.
We'll play again tomorrow. My name is Brian Antoine.